Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling. We go out to Arizona. Four-time Arizona high school state champion, two-time All-American for Arizona State. Went into mixed martial arts. He's an American Gladiator. Now he's coaching wrestling and selling real estate. It's Aaron Simpson. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing good, Kyle. Great to be on. It's great to still somewhat be remembered in this world.
Well, talking about being remembered, you brought up a great memory of being at the NCAA championships. And we have all this technology. We have track wrestling, and we can go back and watch NCAA championship matches. You can buy a package that you can watch every single match. And you brought up a point that when you went to the NCAA championships, when you're competing, the coach actually had to give a VHS tape in order for them to record. Pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah. And I think about, with social media and really things like track wrestling, these kids are so spoiled now. Like, I can't imagine being able to just look at my phone and see what's going on real time or what just happened. And not just, the best in the world, but even, the best high school kids in the U.S. and little kids. It's pretty impressive. I absolutely love track wrestling. I'm coaching at a high school now, and able to see what track has done for high school wrestling and tournaments online and seeing what bouts are coming up. It's so much better. But going back to your point about, the history in the past, I mean, I remember going to the NCAA tournament, and obviously before me, and this was the mid to late 90s and then the early 2000s, as assistant coaches, we'd have to handle the VHS tapes that you'd look through your tape and be like, oh, here's Curtis Owens. And I'd have to run out there and throw Curtis Owens' tape, give it to the front desk, and they'd pop it in. And then Curtis has a big match and wins or something. We all run off and get the tape, and someone's running out there to get the tape. And sometimes the tape gets lost. So we don't really, and you brought the point of Eric Clark and not having video of his NCAA final match. It's just really a travesty. The fact that, they came on, I think it was on ESPN, and they caught the last period that they put out there. So there's no historical data of that, or at least video of Eric Larkin's NCAA championship win. And I know, it's got so much better now. And these kids, like, I'm following, ASU now, and they have so many photos and pictures and video of all the stuff they're doing all the time. And really, if I remember correctly, like University of Nebraska had like the Husker vision that would always follow around the program. I think Iowa always had someone there, video and like high end. It wasn't just an assistant coach having to get a little VHS camera and carry it on their shoulder and make sure the matches are video, because we all hated that.
Well, going back to 1998, your senior year, you placed fourth that year, but you had a 15-13 overtime match with Virtus Jones. That would blow people's minds if they got to watch that today.
Yeah, well, it's out there. It's actually on YouTube now, and someone pointed out, like Chris Pendleton put it out there. Someone saw it and tagged me in it. And another depressing day of I had to relive that. Yeah, that was a tough one, but yeah, Virtus and I have scrap. When
you're in a match like that, I mean, that's a lot of points. Are you thinking at that point, or what's going through your head?
I just, I beat him. I want to say I majored him at the national duels early in the year. So I think I might have taken him down once, but then he threw me right to my back. He did like a high flyer. I shot a double. He high flyed me to my back. I, went up. So, 5-point move. And I just remember coming back and thinking, all right, just keep going. Take down, let him up, take him down, let him up. And I think I missed riding time by like 1 second. I think I had 59 seconds riding time. It was just a whole lot of commotion. I definitely, planned on being in the finals and winning the whole thing. And it didn't happen. I really, obviously I think everyone that did not win a national title, it'll bug them to this day. I still lose sleep over it. Like, I'm sure guys in their 60s and 70s, still lose sleep over stupid things like that. But things happen, and I had a pretty good career after that.
You are from Gunnison, Colorado originally, then you moved to Arizona in your, I think it was teenage years, maybe as a kid. Was it just a natural fit after winning 4 state championships in Arizona just to go to Arizona State?
Well, I actually grew up in Nebraska. I was born in Colorado, but immediately moved to Nebraska and lived there till I was 12 years old. So I was a Husker. Like, if you grew up in Nebraska, you're a Cornhusker, forever. And I think, and I was gonna dot the I. I was gonna play football and wrestle. I was gonna be a 2-sport athlete. As a little kid, I'm thinking that. Like, who wouldn't want to play football at the University of Nebraska? And then, at 12 years old, we moved to Arizona, and I'm still a Husker fan. Like, I don't think I was, so I been contacted and recruited and was seriously contemplating going back to wrestle for the University of Nebraska back then. But Tim Newman recruited me, and I remember, I took a recruiting trip. It would have been a hard place for me to go back to. I thought Nebraska was awesome, and then I was at Tempe, Arizona, and so I ended up going to obviously staying at Arizona, and it was kind of, my brother was at ASU, and so it was an easy thing for me being my parents were here, and plus you just can't leave this weather and this type of play. And it was Leroy Smith's first year, and we had a great recruiting class coming in, so it was kind of a no-brainer, I guess.
Casey Strand, I think, was with you during that time. Stephen Neal tells a great story about when Casey Strand hit him with a low single at the state championships, and he said he never saw that before. Did he hit you with some low singles in the practice?
Well, Casey is one of my best friends and college roommates, everything. He was a year younger than me, but he was phenomenal in Greco. And so, like, I remember wrestling him in high school at, like, the Las Vegas regionals, and we were both in the finals, and he hit me on my head so bad, like, arm spun me one time. And he had great hips. Casey was awesome, and so not only could he hit low singles and great high C's, he had like he'd underhook him and he'd whip his arm back and he'd shoot high C. He hit on Joe Williams once. So yeah, Casey was good like that. But one time in college, we're sitting there and we're roommates, and I come home and he's watching a video, and he goes, and I'm like, what was that? And I looked over and he kind of gives me this look, and it's video of him beating me in high school and throwing me on my head in that Las Vegas match. So we always were kind of rib each other over that.
And then, of course, you eventually went into mixed martial arts. You were in the UFC. What's that like going against another guy that's high caliber like Mark Munoz when you fought him?
That was not, that it wasn't the high caliber. It was the fact that we were friends. And I look back and I approached that fight differently because we trained together. I mean, he was at UC Davis and I was at Cal Poly coaching for a year. We both kind of like we'd meet and we'd grapple a little bit and be like, I think I might do this. He's like, I think I might do this. And we were at the NCAA tournament in Detroit, or at Auburn Hills there. Before we both got in, we were both still coaching, and we grappled there again, and we're kind of like talking about it. And then you fast forward several years later, and we're both fighting each other in Auburn Hills at the Palace, which is kind of a strange story in itself. Here we are, somewhat not training partners, but friends. He had kids, I had kids, and it was just a weird thing. Times have changed now. You see how people deal with that stuff, and a fight is a fight. But man, or in those earlier days, it was really I remember a question like, man, am I gonna be able to elbow this guy in the face? But it was a close fight too. I mean, we scrapped. It was fun looking back.
Was mixed martial arts something that once you saw, you thought this was going to be a good fit for you, or did it take some convincing to get you into that fighting game?
Well, it took convincing. Josh Koscheck in 04, we trained together a little bit. I went out and trained when he was coaching at Buffalo and trying to get ready for the 04 Olympic trials. And as soon as that was over, he was like, I'm doing this fighting stuff. He got on the Ultimate Fighter TV show, and I think we were in Real Pro Wrestling, and we thought that was going to take off, And so I remember him going, no, man, you should do this, and you need to leave wrestling, blah, blah, blah. You're not going anywhere with that. That coaching wrestling is you're making $40,000 a year. And so it really took him coaxing. 4 years later, Cain Velasquez getting into it, Ryan Bader, CB Dalloway, those guys getting into it, me leaving coaching at ASU to really go like, man, I can still do this. Like I can get in here, and I loved it from when Kevin Jackson, who was my coach out here in 96, 97, he got in and fought, and we all got together at my house to watch him fight on pay-per-view. So I remember thinking like, God, as wrestlers, we really have a pretty big skill level that we could do this and make money and kind of be professional athletes that we never could have done any other way unless you're like going to WWE, and that doesn't really count. So it was kind of in my forte. I was never a fighter growing up, never got street fights or anything, didn't have that ability, but I always knew I could fight. Like even my style of wrestling, I really wanted to mix it up a little bit more and hand fight and get physical. And so it kind of played into my game, I guess, a little bit, getting into it and ultimately stepping in a cage and punching somebody.
Punching someone, though, if you're not used to it, how do you get used to it?
I think you have to do it and get punched back. And I questioned it until probably my fourth fight, which was I had a 17-second knockout. But my first three fights were small little shows. I had a master's degree. I was sitting there going, "What the hell am I doing with my life? Why am I stepping in a cage?" But I had little kids on the way at the time. I had twins on the way, and so it was something like I needed to do. I wasn't ready to sit down and have a desk job or go that route. I still knew athletically I could do something. So it was getting in the cage and training with guys that, I really had to, like, you kind of have to suck it up and, bite down your mouthpiece and put your chin down and kind of throw and learn and get comfortable taking punches and then eventually learning how to not get punched. And that took me a little while too. But it's like anything, and I always feel like all wrestlers have, like I said, an amazing ability to do this sport, but some just don't want to do it. Some just don't picture themselves getting hit. It's such a scary thing, but it's really not that big of a deal. Getting knocked out's no fun, but yeah, getting hit's not that big of a deal, I guess.
How'd you get into American Gladiator with your wife?
It was just some tryout that they had here locally, and we went down there, and she kind of told our story with what was happening in our lives with our kids going to be born, our pregnant, the pregnancy of my twins and IVF and all this stuff, and I really kind of grabbed them, and the casting people, put us on, and it was a really cool experience. It was all kind of a blur, really, I mean, we had a lot going on in our lives, and shipped out to LA and could find a hotel rooms, but geez, that was so long ago now. It was like 2008, I think.
When you do that, what can you tell us about what happens behind the scenes? A lot of times these shows are overproduced. Did you feel like they kind of told you what to do and you had to execute?
Well, kind of, and not, I don't know, they didn't really tell you what to do. They wouldn't tell you much. You didn't get to try things out. You didn't get to practice. They confined you to this like little locker room area in the arena, and then you'd sit there all day because they were filming from morning and they had food for you till 12 o'clock at night, and then you go back to your hotel and sleep and do it all again the next day. And it was like 2 weeks of it. So that was, you don't realize that because you have to shoot all these shows over a certain amount, over 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is. So they're trying to fit it all in 2 weeks, film everything in 2 weeks, all the events and everything, and have to redo some things. And yeah, it was cool to see the behind the scenes stuff, like when we watch game shows now and really what happens behind the scenes, how everything looks so much bigger on TV with just small little things, I guess.
Did a lot of people go nuts about that when they saw you do it?
Yeah, it was cool. We had family and friends that would get together and couldn't really talk about it, but yeah, it was a fun experience. Obviously I wish things would have turned out a little bit differently and won it, but I chalk it up to just another life experience. We're only on this planet for a short time, and I try to open every door that I'm presented with. I always say that too. Like, I don't really say no to a whole lot. If there's an opportunity to do something, I usually do it. If there's someone wants to talk or have a meeting or whatever, it's like, yeah, what the heck? You never know what's going to come out of it and whose life it's going to change or whatever. So I'm pretty open to doing new things all the time and new experiences.
You talked about your story and how you got on American Gladiators. I believe it involved, I think you said your twins and then a surrogate who was your mother-in-law. Explain that.
Yeah. We 4 years of going through IVF and spending thousands of dollars. It was really rough on my wife. She always wanted to be a mom and felt like there was something she couldn't do. And then, you fast forward a little bit, and my mother-in-law comes in and says, I want to do it. And we obviously said no. And she goes, let me carry your embryos, and because they weren't taken. And so finally we gave her the okay. She was 52 years old in great health. Put 2 embryos in, did the whole process, and they both took. And then now fast forward a little bit more, and we have 12-year-old twin, boy and girl, and it was really big news back then in 2008. In fact, it was June 18th, so we're coming up on their 12th birthday, coming up soon. So June 18th, 2008, we had twins. But yeah, it was big for us. The whole pregnancy was 9 months of us being away sometimes. Our mother-in-law came to Arizona and stayed here with us, but we went away for the American Gladiators for a couple of weeks. Just a whirlwind of insanity, I guess. And then once the kids were born, then the insanity jacked up another 10 times.
I'm trying to think what that feels like when your 52-year-old mother-in-law. Are you kind of on pins and needles, just hoping everything goes okay?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was because of her age, and it was twins, and it was considered a high risk pregnancy. Although she handled it like crazy. I mean, like she was amazing with it. Was sick throughout it, which sucked, and we felt bad for her. But she was a trooper, man. She went out there and got it done, and she's here right now, actually out in Arizona. Has been here with us through this whole quarantine, and they're from Michigan. Grew up there. They're a wrestling family out there, Goodrich, Michigan, which are a couple times state champs several years ago. So it's kind of we're all family, and I guess we kind of do that thing that for each other as family.
Have you had conversations with her about how she views those kids different? Does it feel like they're kind of her kids?
No, and don't ever say that again. No, that's like it could be a weird subject for some people, but no, not really. She's grandma. She's Nona. They're an Italian family, so they call her Nona, and she's really close with my daughter, and my son. But it's just a grandparent bond, and it's neat to have her out here now because they're in Michigan all the time. They don't really get to spend that much time with their kids. So unless we go out there every other Christmas and then every summer. So it's been really nice to have them out here during this time, really since March when everything was shut down.
Tell us about what you're doing now. You're in real estate?
Yeah. Gosh, several years ago, we had a gym out here in Gilbert, Arizona, Power of a Man Fitness, and we were doing pretty well, but the gym just got to be too big and too much, and wasn't as profitable as we'd like it to be. And I just needed to really do something different. I was traveling, I was going to Brazil and then Australia, and leaving my family and really not making much for money. The MMA world's a weird world. A lot of fighters don't necessarily want, they win a fight and they don't necessarily want to pay. They lose a fight, they definitely don't want to pay part of their purse back to the gym. And there are some that are awesome about it, and then there are some guys that you got to understand too, like as fighters, they're trying to provide for themselves and their families, and so that was kind of rough. But getting into real estate's been awesome for me. I actually reached out to Marty Morgan when it happened, University of Minnesota, and he's been super successful. Was talking to Logan Storley. He's like, hey, reach out to Marty. So I talked to him about it and kind of picked some other people's brains that were in that world. And it's been great. It's been, in Arizona, our market's really really zooming, and people are moving here and homes are moving, and we really haven't experienced anything with the lockdown or anything. So although the virus has picked up in Arizona, so we kind of may have to lock things down here before too long. We'll see.
What's the art to selling a house?
The art, I think it's about relationships. It's about building relationships, and I don't do a whole lot of marketing. It's all kind of word of mouth. So I need to make sure people like me and like how I work and what I do for them. I think that's maybe the biggest thing, and that's what I enjoy about it too, is making these relationships or keeping these relationships that I once had, and then picking them back up where we left off. There's a lot to it as far as paperwork and the legalities of buying and selling homes. So you have to have someone who's smart enough to make sure people aren't getting screwed over and they're getting good deals. But to me, it's all about relationships. I think that's what life is all about, really. Networking and being good to people, and hopefully people are good back in return.
When you think about legacy, you have a good legacy here, all the things that we mentioned. How long does that legacy last? Do people still remember what you've accomplished?
Sometimes, every once in a while you'll get someone that'll say, oh, you were this, you were, it's a circle I walk into, but, or the UFC stuff or whatever. So some things fall. Some people have no idea, I'll get handed somebody from somebody or referred somebody, and they will have no idea of what I did. And then they maybe look me up or they Google, the internet's easy way to find someone's past. And so they're like, holy crap. And I'll get a picture of myself fighting. And they're like, I had no idea this was you, that's kind of cool. But, yeah, it's not like I'm out there, and maybe I should be doing that. There's a guy named Al Iaquinta who I want to say he wrestled. He's a Long Island guy, and he fights in the UFC. I think he wrestled called somewhere out there. Maybe I don't know if he was a Hofstra or what, but he's a realtor. He's really successful. He's with Home Smart like I am. And he kind of pushes that. He calls it Crazy Al. He's called Crazy Al or something. And he uses the UFC connection and really gets himself out there marketing wise, and it's really successful. Doesn't really even have to fight, from what I understand.
And you're coaching at Arcadia High School?
Yeah. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and it's a program that just started. No feeder programs, which is 100% the opposite of what I was doing at Arizona State University. Coaching high school kids, dealing with high school kid problems and families and all the stuff that comes on board, and kids that have no idea what wrestling is, kids that aren't necessarily overly motivated, kids that are super motivated, but I don't have anyone helping them, or the direction, like parental support or any of that. So it's been a different experience for me, for sure.
When you're a high school wrestling coach like that, how do you balance that with the real estate game?
It's easy. It's not much of a balance game. Real estate is, for me, pretty open. I can kind of make my own schedule and work around certain things, and schedule things when need to be scheduled, and make sure I have weekends off for wrestling tournaments, and certain times for practices. I have to drive probably 25 minutes to get to practice, and then on my way home I hit rush hour, so it might be 50 minutes before I get home. So it's balancing family, and my kids are older now, so they're involved in everything, and so not having her be able to have to handle all that. I like to step in and be there and drive and do things, and so that's more the balance, in my opinion.
What do you think about where Arizona State's going right now? A new hire with Mark Perry. It seems like they're rolling with Sunkist kids. Feel good to be part of the Sun Devil program?
Yeah, it does. When everything took off and we had Zahid and those kids all get recruited, Tanner Hall, Shields, Maruka, those kids that came in, it was like, man, we're heading in the right direction. And then obviously the last several years it was just climbing. I really felt like this year would have been the year. We beat Penn State. Penn State didn't necessarily have their strongest lineup in, but everyone, things happen at the NCAA tournament. People fold and people shine. So we were all looking forward to seeing what they could do. And obviously Zahid wasn't there was not going to be there to compete. And that really hurt us. That hurt our chances. Then everything happened with the virus and shut down. So now we've got a new class coming through. We do have new coaches, although, I think that Chris Pendleton will be sorely missed. I think he was a great coach. I think he's a great person. I think he's got the right character to lead Oregon State. And it sucks because Oregon State, and if you'd been following college wrestling, when I was in school, Oregon State was number 2 in the country. I think we were top 5. Bakersfield was top 5. Pac-10 had some athletes, and so it's going to be tough for Arizona State now, especially with Stanford doing what they're doing, to have a coach like Chris Pendleton up there recruiting and training kids the way they need to be trained. But it's great. It's great for college wrestling. It's going to be great for the Pac-12 to have to get Oregon State back on the map up there, because they should be a top 10 program. There's no question in my mind. I think he's going to be doing the right things. But we're talking about ASU and bringing a guy like Mark Perry out here and Frank Molinaro. It's a step in the right direction. Lee Pritz to me is one of those coaches that flies under the radar that no one really talks about, because he didn't have like a storied college career or I guess international career, but man, he's a great coach, and he's a good person. He's a hard worker. He's got that. He kind of just flies under the radar, like I said. So it's nice to have a guy like Lee in there that can recruit and coach also.
You get over to the meets quite a bit?
I do. Yeah. Obviously, I try to get them when I get there when I can, and follow the NCAA tournament if I can, or get to the NCAA tournament. So yeah, it's not too far for me. I'm here in Tempe, so I'll make sure I get over there. I haven't seen a practice in probably a couple of years, just with my practices now with high school stuff. But yeah, I'm still following it. I'm still in touch.
Do you have any more athletic conquests you want before you die?
Oh man, it's all surgeries now. I think I need a neck surgery. I need probably another knee surgery or a new knee. I'm just trying to keep my body. I trained and fought hard till I was probably 39 years old, which isn't the wisest thing to do, I guess. But no, so nothing on the horizon. Although I'll probably still fight Chael Sonnen if he wants to get in the ring at all.
Yeah, I mean, so is this the gauntlet? You want to fight him then?
Yeah, let me fight Chael. No, I mean Chael's a good dude. He's probably 230 pounds now too, so a little bigger than me. But Chael and I think we wrestled once in freestyle back in the day, and now it's just time to call out old retired guys.
Yeah, good way to do it. Well, thanks for taking this time. Great learning about what you're doing, and can't wait to see what you're going to do at the high school wrestling. It sounds like you have a good grasp on what you want to accomplish there.
Yeah, well, and really a big thing, and I think something that maybe we didn't really mention, but Eric Larkin out here is starting a high school. I don't know if you know about Valiant High School Preparatory. Valiant Prep, it's a private high school. Only, well, it's not. They have some other sports now, but it started around wrestling. Angel Cejudo is the head coach. My old roommate Mike Douglas is a part of it. Eric's sons go to high school there. Eric Larkin's kids are some of the best in the country right now, or climbing up the ladder. And so I'm helping out towards that program too, as much as I can, to get that program off and running. And so I think this is maybe their third year, and they're trying to get into the prep nationals now. So we're going to have a Arizona representation, but we've got some stud kids that are signing with universities right now. And Benji Alanis came out of that program. He just signed with Northern Colorado. Eric's son Caleb and Kyler are coming up to the high school now, and they're going to be really good. And they're already are really good. So we've got some cool things going out here in Arizona. And Angel Cejudo being the head coach. I mean, that guy's a wealth of knowledge. And of course, we know about his brother.